I'll introduce myself first. My name is Susan Wood. I'm the Director of Communications for the Utah League of Cities and Towns, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, who's a short-timer with the league, or short-term. He'll be leaving us soon, but he can talk about that if he wants to. It's an opportunity for him that will be life-changing, but we have certainly enjoyed the years or the time that he spent with us. I don't know how long it's been now. It feels like we've known him forever. In fact, with that, well, let me talk first about our annual convention coming up. This is October 5th through the 7th at the Salt Palace Convention Center in Salt Lake City. And we've got some really great presenters coming up. For example, Richard Picciotto. He is from New York, formerly with the New York Fire Department. He was the highest ranking officer inside the Twin Towers on 9/11, and he has a very compelling story to tell as he was inside and the second tower fell. He'll be our keynote speaker. We've also got the former mayor of Oklahoma City, Mick Cornett, who will be talking about wellness in our communities and how we can take what we may rank quite low at and start an initiative to get the community on board to help improve the status of something like the wellness of a community. Jenny Taylor will be joining us to present the Taylor Service Award. Of course, you know that she is or was married to the late Mayor Brent Taylor, Major Brent Taylor, and so she'll be speaking to us as well. It's sure to be inspiring, as it always is. And the same night that she makes the presentation for the award, we will have Matt and Savannah Shaw perform for us. They're this wonderful father-daughter team from Kaysville who started their singing career online during COVID, and they've won the hearts of so many people on YouTube. It's incredible and very inspirational. So with that, get online, get on the ulct.org website and sign up and join us for the annual convention coming up. All right, now let's turn the time over to a former police chief himself, an interim chief in Orem back from what, 1998 or so. Do I need to call you chief now, John Park? You've just been pokey to me.
Yeah, pokey work. No, don't. I don't think I've earned the label chief. That's
but
for sure. I did start. I actually did start my career, believe it or not, as a patrolman in Tooele, Utah in 1980. So I've been around a little bit. Started when I was 12 years old.
Well, John, let's start with you to talk about building trust with law enforcement today.
Yes, thank you. Excited to be here today. Thank you for joining us. We have, I think, well, let me just start out by saying one of the great things I think we've done at the League in the last couple of years has been our Love, Listen, Lead Task Force. Our Love, Listen, Lead Task Force started shortly after the incident in Milwaukee with George Floyd, and we worked and we identified and we created this task force of about 35 of us, and it was an honor to be there. And we had about 8 police chiefs, elected officials, mayors, and council members, as well as administrative people from all over the state. And we went through these 3 phases, and one was just to listen. And you know, first of all, I think we love and these guys did, and we just listened, and we listened to everybody. We talked to Black Lives Matter, we talked to the Fraternal Order of Police, we talked to everybody about issues surrounding trust and other things within the state of Utah. And you know, and part of what we learned was that yeah, we have a little ways to go, and there's some things we can do, and we've seen some tremendous some, I think, really good changes in state law that governing police that help with building trust with our organizations, and as part of that effort, I ran across actually several police departments that are doing wonderful things to build trust within their communities. And the 2 that I wanted to highlight and I wanted to talk to are the 2 we have today, and I'm so excited to hear from these great public servants. First of all, we're going to hear from Park City Police Department Chief Wade Carpenter. I kidded him earlier and said that I think he's been the chief of Park City since 1884 when they started, but in reality, he's been chief for the last 14 years and has done a wonderful job. Came from Southern Utah, and he's going to talk about some of the great things that Park City has done to build trust with maybe underserved people in their community, and how exciting that. And he's joined by Lieutenant Jay Randall, who actually followed him from Ivans up to Park City, and they've been a great team at building this community involvement program that they have. And so we'll listen to him. But after him, we're going to listen to Chief Kyle Whitehead, who was appointed police in August, I think, of 2020 in St. George, and they have this great program called We Are SGPD, and when we're done, you probably ought to log into their website. In fact, it was funny when I joined today our meeting. I had logged into We Are SGPD, and as soon as I turned on my volume, this jingle came up. You missed that, Chief Whitehead, but the jingle that was kind of going on with their website came up, a very catchy kind of thing. And so that said, we are just excited to hear these two programs. And I think we'll start out with Chief Carpenter and Lieutenant Randall with Park City Police Department. Chief, go ahead.
Thanks, John. I first want to say how much I appreciate my relationship with the Utah League of Cities and Towns. Always have. I've always appreciated the hard work of the city managers and what a tough job that is. I've shared with several before. I was an interim city manager for a few years, and that was probably one of the most humbling experiences for me ever in my career, in the sense that I learned that if something went wrong, it was my fault, and if something went right, it's because I had great employees. And I know city managers deal with, it's tough to be a police chief, but it's a lot tougher to be a city manager. So I have a great deal of respect, and John has served the state so well for so many years, and we certainly appreciate all that he does and for the opportunity to be here today. Having said that, we're asked to talk a little bit today about some of our community outreach initiatives. And I'm here with Lieutenant Jay Randall, long-term friend. He was a captain in Ivans, Santa Clara City. I previously was a chief there, and Chief Bob Flowers is currently the chief there. And so we've had a great working relationship with Chief Whitehead for many, many years. Kyle and I used to teach at the academy together, and he's a phenomenal guy. And so we, early on had taken a lot of pages from some of the great initiatives that St. George have come up with when I came to Park City. We've done a lot of things different and a lot of things the same. And so I'd also asked Chief Whitehead today during our presentation if he wants to add anything. He has a very unique perspective, and certainly is a very accomplished police chief, and I certainly appreciate the opportunity today. With that, we looked at some of our community outreach projects. One of them that we've about 30% of our community is Latino, and about probably half of that is first generation. And so I really kind of started to resonate with me that we needed to improve relationships. Now, we've always had pretty strong relationships with our Latino community, and we've always had pretty good community outreach. However, I went with our former mayor, Andy Bierman, asked if I would go over to the high school and speak to the Latinos in Action group. This is a high school group that we've had pretty close ties with. And it was kind of a Q&A. And interestingly, our current mayor, Nan Worrell, actually helped create the People's Health Clinic, which is almost all Latino participants that utilize that facility. When I went over and was talking to the students, I learned that there was this separation that I was really unfamiliar with, because I always thought we had really great relations. And they told me that many of them have a family dynamic that's unique, that a lot of these residences, due to the fact that Park City is a very expensive place to live, that in some of the apartment and condos, they have multiple families living in one condo or apartment. And they said it's very difficult because their parents are sometimes working 2 and 3 jobs, and they're, first generation. And so their English skills are not great. And they're a little bit intimidated actually to have an interaction with public officials. But these young students are leaders in the community. They're leaders in the school. And they have really, they have stepped up as brothers and sisters, and have kind of taken on the role of parenting when their parents are out trying to earn a living. And we realized this separation in the sense that a lot of times there would be other family members living in these home environments. And at times if there was some type of offense or violation, and some of these children could have either been abused physically, sexually, or otherwise, and something needed to be reported, the primary family was very reluctant to report that information because they were concerned of deportation and that type of thing. Obviously, my view has always been our job is to enforce the rule of law. And we need to protect every person under the Constitution. That's absolutely paramount. That's what we do as law enforcement. We need to protect all people. And so we wanted to make sure that we created these relationships of trust with this community, deeper than we ever had. And so we were trying to look for opportunities to do that. We've always had a regular Citizens Academy and worked for many years to try to create a Latino Citizens Academy as well. While we had a lot of projects that we've accomplished, when Jay came, Lieutenant Randall came, he's done a lot of great things with community outreach. And so we started talking about what we needed to do to increase our footprint in that community. And so he came up with a lot of great initiatives, and we've been enacting a lot of those initiatives. And I asked him if he would come today to help share some of those programs, because really he's been the champion of pushing this for us. So with that, I will turn some time over to him and certainly answer any questions as needed.
Terrific. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm appreciative of the opportunity to be able to do this into policing. And I think so many people maybe undervalue what it is, the type of impacts you can have through outreach, and some of the things that we've been able to do, and so many others across the country. But we're certainly nobody we're no special organization or anything like that. But I can tell you that through these efforts you will find an outpouring of appreciation from the groups that you're trying to target. And so that one of those was the Latino. So we have the regular Citizens Academy. We've been doing that for, I think, almost 8 years now. This year we did a revamp on it and doubled the size of it, did a few other things that we're able to do. And so we've been really excited about that. And the feedback has been amazing. Because of that, we've also been able to staff a few other initiatives from those same people that graduate from this academy. We're starting our Latinos Academy starting next week. In the past, it's been a little shorter. This year, it's 7 classes, and it's a great opportunity for not only for our officers to engage with the communities that they serve in, but also an opportunity for them to break down those barriers, as you might see in so many other communities. One of the things I kind of went a little bit quick there, but anyway, one of the things that we just recently started, and Chief Whitehead, I have to say thank you, because it was Tyrell, one of your sergeants, who's a good friend of mine, went to the academy together, that helped me with getting our Explorer program, our VIPS program started. We're going to talk about that in a second, but I'm interested to see what your thoughts were on that. We started an Explorer program 2 years ago. The Explorer program basically youth from 14 to 21, and it gives them an opportunity to learn about the profession that we're in now. Not only to decide whether or not that's something that might be interesting to them, but also other areas. We brought in pilots, we brought in nurses, other things, other professions, to give these kids an opportunity early to have an idea of what they might be interested in as they grow older. One of the things that this Explorer program's done for us, though, is it's become, like everybody is dealing with, is retention and recruiting issues that we're finding in law enforcement and pretty much any other field you're talking about. But one of the things that we focused on is trying to develop the ones that are interested into good quality candidates when it comes time for us to move forward and hire additional personnel. We actually have a 20-year-old now. He's just waiting on his birthday. That's all he's waiting for. And he's prepared himself as much as he can possibly prepare himself so that he'll be ready to go in and step into the shoes of a law enforcement officer. So we're excited for him. We meet once a week. They have all kinds of different opportunities to get a ride along as they get all these different opportunities to interact with the police, but also work special events and a bunch of other things like that, which is a fantastic thing. The why for this one is we have to have it. We have to start early with these youth. We have to start not only in their early years, but also get them to the point where we can develop the idea of becoming a law enforcement officer, and specifically one for our department. So we're excited about him, and he's about there. This is just a real quick little video that we put together as far as talking about the academy as we explore getting new candidates. Won't tell me a radar rating. So this is coming up the Empire. Ready to go into the bottom parking lot.
It's a great insight into a possible career in law enforcement, especially for someone like me who that's my goal. It's an informative point of you get insight into what officers do every day.
Let me move on here. Let's see. Sorry about that. Another thing that's kind of taken off for us, a little while back, we were realizing that especially in our town with such a high population of unlicensed drivers, that we could probably bridge the gap a little bit there. So we decided to start a Latino driver's license class. Initially, we started working with the county on this, and we used their facility. We had about 6 or 8 or so that were pretty commonly coming. And then we decided to promote it this year. We decided, hey, we can do this virtually and give a lot more people an opportunity to learn and those type of things. It jumped to over 200 participants at this point, where we have people that are being trained how they can best pass the driver's license classes and obtain a true valid Utah driver's license. It's done a lot for us. It's not only endeared these folks to the police department and again allowed that trust that we've been talking about, but it also has kept them safer, our motorists safer, and it's something we anticipate growing continually. We're also teaching some English classes as well for some of the same individuals that have that interest. So I tell you, it's one of the neatest things that we've been able to put together in the last year and a half, and it's fostered an
Can I
amazing.
add one thing to that?
Please.
One thing we love about this helps people become gainfully employed. A lot of times when there's, as I said, there's this relationship with law enforcement, the police, DMV, where they're very intimidated. And this has created an opportunity to where if they can get a driver's license and they're licensed and insured, this gives them better employment opportunities. It improves their ability to earn a living for their family. And it really assimilates them into our community to where they feel like we have a relationship with them. And so I think that's been one of the greatest things. The nice thing also is, we many times when we talk about these programs, we think, should we have it outside the police department? We say, no, we want this relationship to where the interaction is with law enforcement. So they have this positive interaction and they see that it's not always something negative when the police department shows up at their door.
Yeah, great opportunity. Another thing that we've done, and I've got an individual who works for me. He's a Spanish speaker. Been very, very involved. He was with West Valley City prior to coming here and helped with their community outreach efforts. But as he came on board, we talked about different aspects of what we can do to create partnerships with nonprofits, with interfaith groups, those type of individuals, and see how we can bring all that together to help, include all of the individuals that we're targeting, which is everybody in the community, regardless of, race or anything else. So we continually have meetings now with our interfaith council. We spend quite a bit of time with them. We have a partnership with the Mexican consulate, which is a great tool as well. If we run into a situation where we've got some kind of a big issue that's come up, they've been a real good partner in that as far as helping us in those kind of efforts. So we also do a radio program in Spanish every week, where we kind of target the Latino community by, the chief has different ideas of things that he would like to see pushed out that week, or maybe we have some different things that we're trying to codify in the community. And it's a great opportunity for these folks who typically don't get their news from the typical sources that the rest of us do. And so we're targeting those sources. PC is PC United, but is another group that we work with, trying to have, what we're trying to do is establish as many lines of communication as we can possibly come up with, to make sure we're targeting the seniors, the Latino community, and all the other efforts that we have. And that kind of leads us into our social media outreach. We've kind of revamped this a little bit too this last year, spent a lot more time and hired a young man who really kind of, I guess he isn't that young, but his name's Remy, and he's worked for FEMA. He's also, some of you may even know who he is. He worked for FEMA, the U of U, and Utah Transit Authority as their social media guru. And so we stole him away from everybody, and he's been helping us really kind of formulate a consistent message that we can put out. Some of those are, obviously our emergency notifications, but he does a Safety Tip Tuesday, articles and videos highlighting the great things that our officers do every single day. And I think that's we can't possibly hit on that enough. There's so many things that are going on in our community that our officers are engaged in and that are just not recognized. We need to make sure that we're doing a better job, and that's part of the process. And then also, obviously, it's a crime prevention tool, but it also gives us opportunities to kind of teach. We did what we call clarifying the law, and we're still working on that, where each week or each month we would put out a small article that would explain something like, how do you navigate a roundabout, right? St. George knows all about this, but I'm telling you, it was really well received, and we also translate all of our social media into Spanish as well. And we make sure that community, so we have the Spanish Facebooks as well, Facebook and some of the others. So these are some of the areas we've really focused in the last little bit. The benefits have been monumental, and we can't be more proud of the employees that put these things together each and every week. So one of the last things here, we talk about our VIPS program. We're just starting that. We're almost there, getting to the point where it's volunteers in public safety, for you who don't like all the acronyms that us law enforcement officers throw out every day. I even get tired of them. Anyway, but essentially what this is folks who want to volunteer their time, their extra sets of eyes at our key areas where we have issues. We have a lot of trailheads here. We see a lot of vehicle burglaries for people that go running or whatever and leave their valuables in their vehicle, and people, burglarize those. Having those extra eyes, they can walk the trailheads, they can be there as a resource. Also for our special events, what are we up to, 270 something?
276 special events a year. I was thinking last night, the commonality between St. George and Park City, both of us are obviously resort communities that have this massive influx of people all throughout the entire year. And I think because of that kind of forces you into a situation to where you have to kind of get outside the box and come up with unique opportunities. And we kind of noticed that our senior population was kind of getting lost a little bit. In fact, we had a barbecue with them. Our city manager and council held a big barbecue, and and had a lot of the city employees come out and participate in that. But I think it's a great opportunity. What I like about it also is when we were in our Citizens Academy, a lot of the individuals that attend that, they vary in age, but it creates an opportunity to where you have younger and older people from very diverse backgrounds interacting where they typically never would. And now then they create these friendships, and we're hoping that as we see VIPs continue, and I'm sure Chief Whitehead has numerous examples of this, that we're starting to see the positive aspects of this.
Yeah. And kind of lastly, some of you might be aware of the new movement, Faith and Blue events that are happening across the country. Essentially, this is a national movement that talks about trying to include all aspects of your community. And so you bring interfaith groups and your police departments together, and they put on a community event. This year, we decided as our first event, we're going to kick off our community cops cornhole competition. We call it the Triple C. Anyway, so essentially we just invite the entire community and we get to challenge our skills against everybody and also their neighbors. We're looking forward to the opportunity to participate in the Faith and Blue movement. We feel very strongly about it. It's a great opportunity, but it also kind of piggybacks on all of our outreach efforts. So that's just one of the things that we're trying to focus on as far as trying to find the inclusion. Isn't that the biggest challenge is trying to make everybody feel comfortable in the community. So that's kind of about where we're at, unless you have something else you want to add, Chief.
Nothing in addition.
Thank you. Thank you so much. If any of you out there have any questions, please put it in the chat box. Be happy to pass those along, or the Q&A box. We can handle each of those. One of the questions I have, however, Chief, you've been there for 14 years since you were appointed chief in 2008, August of 2008. And one of the we do a lot of these programs, but ultimately what we're trying to do is change cultures in our cities, right?
Absolutely.
And so, and I know that historically, communities that have historically been kind of left out of the picture make it the situation harder to investigate crime and things like that within their communities. What have you seen last as you've done some of these programs that change the culture in your city? What have you seen a difference in that arena or not?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't take all credit for that. My predecessor, Lloyd Evans, they had a lot of strong community ties to the Latino community. Prior, we wanted to continue and maintain a lot of those relationships and create new relationships. And I think it's very helpful. I know during, it doesn't matter where you stand on the political platform. It doesn't matter whether you're super right or super left. Having relationships with your community when there are initiatives for roundups, for example, through immigration and removal. What we ask is that we have a relationship with immigration and removal and ICE so that, we're creating a safer environment when they have to do their work. So obviously, some people say, oh, well, Park City's anti-law enforcement, which is absolutely untrue. We say we want to make sure that we're being communicated to. So at 2:00 in the morning, while they're doing their job and have to take action, that we have communication, that we're aware of those, that it's going to happen, that those arrests are going to be made, so that when somebody disappears out of the community, certainly we can message that to their family, so they don't just assume they've just disappeared. At times we've had cars show up on the side of the road and, people been arrested, and I get they have to do their job, but we also expect that communication happens with our department so that we can support them in the duty that they're doing, because that is a big part of what we do as well.
Okay, good. Great job. Great example. We appreciate that. So let's turn our eyes a little southward right now. And Chief Kyle Whitehead is hanging out for us in St. George. And let's turn the time over to him. Chief, go ahead.
You're on mute.
You're on mute, Chief.
Sorry, this technology, I'm still trying to catch up. So thank Thank you, John. And I appreciate a lot of what Chief Carpenter has said. You know, the thing to remember with this, and right now we're talking about police departments, but I think what's important to remember is this is across city government and probably all government. What I kind of wanted to talk about initially with my comments today is first a disclaimer. Nothing that we're doing here in St. George really is my idea. I'm not an idea guy. This is just me stepping back and letting great people in my organization come up with ideas and develop those ideas, and then just giving them the room and latitude to make these things work. Some of the things over the last several years, even before I was the chief, that helped me, I think a little bit outside the box, if I can use that term, is there were several quotes that I remember. You know, at one point in my career, I remember somebody saying, well, we don't have time for all of these presentations and all of these community requests. Another one, I remember I've talked to several people throughout my career. You know, we miss the way we used to feel with the police department, that they were very personable and spend a lot of time in the community. And we miss that feeling. I remember a statement once from somebody within my own department saying, you know, as long as the majority of the community supports us, we're doing okay, we're good. And then finally, probably something that really had a lot of meaning to me is recently one of our elected officials down here told me, and I'm probably misquoting them, but something to the effect of our police department is our best representative of city government, that we are the best ambassadors for our city. And to me, that means I look at that and I consider that is a whole heap of responsibility for us as a police department to represent our city, to make sure that we're interacting with the public in a positive, appropriate way, and that we're bringing on absolutely the best employees that we can to move that forward. So what I tell my staff is be intentional about community engagement. This is an era where we have to be community minded and community focused. No longer do we just sit back and say, well, we're just going to kind of sit in the obscurity and we'll do our job. We've got to be out there. We've got to be creating a positive name for ourselves as a department, and I even think as governments these days, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. I'm going to talk about a few things now. I'll get to the why in a minute, but I do want to talk about some what. John alluded to a hashtag that we use, or a branding. Let me tell you a little bit about this. See if I can share my screen here first. Okay. So this is a hashtag that was developed several years ago for our police department. The way this happened is right after I became the chief, one of the leaders in the department came to me and said, you know, we need to do better as an organization. And I think we need to market our department better. And I thought, wait, marketing, you know, when I was in college, marketing's for business people, that's for the private sector. But the more we talked about this, really it started coming to light, and it helped me realize that we do need to market better as government. And so this idea was hatched of having a logo, having a hashtag, and then getting the community involved. And over the last several years, John has already mentioned this, but we do have several videos out there. We'll talk about some of the activities that we've done over the years now. But this SGPD, we offer these t-shirts and tumblers and cups when we have community events, and we have this logo plastered on all of these things so that we get that out there and people feel like, and the whole purpose behind it is to help people feel like they're part of this police department. It isn't just the officers that police St. George, it's the whole community. We need everybody's help. And so we give gifts. When people do great work, we present them with SGPD memorabilia. They're available for purchase if people want to come in and purchase items for gifts or to give away. We use it to tag our social media. We use it on our patrol vehicles. And surprisingly enough, when we first started developing this, I quickly realized we're going to need some money to do this. Marketing is a little bit expensive. And so we've got a very great city manager here who was open to the idea and allowed us to have some money to actually come up with this idea and buy some things. And so it's been very good for our agency. And we've seen it really has developed into helping people feel like they're more part of our police department. Some of the other things we've done, we have partnershiped, the city has partnershiped with the university here. 2 years ago, I believe, they started they call it a university partnership, not just police, but across the city. Some of the things we've been able to do and some of the benefits from this, the partnership has resulted in fun activities, it's resulted in some service activities, and it's also helped us with some of our needs here. Recently, we've realized we have a need for redistricting in the city, for example. It's been several decades since we've set up our districts and our patrol beats. We've been working with the math department, gotten the students involved, presented them with data, and now they're looking at helping us run stats and coming up with a way to redistrict our city. And as we've had these meetings, it's really exciting to see the ownership that these students now feel like they're part of our organization, that they're investing in the future of St. George. And it's really been great. Service projects have included a lot of things, like we did a highway cleanup last year. We do fun activities. We had a flag football game recently with the athletic students. Really great. We challenged, we split the athletic students up and then had a Washington City versus a St. George City team. And it really seemed to be well received. These are some of the things that we try and do, again, to develop these partnerships. Our public information is another area where we're just trying things. We realize that sometimes things are not going to work out, but we're willing to try and try things and see what takes off. Our public information officer tries to be very engaging in her social media. She's working to connect neighborhood pages to our pages, looking to try and modify and make information to send out to some of these neighborhoods so they have things that are particular to things going on in their communities. She's very interactive in when people bring up issues that she'll jump on and comment and say, hey, let us look into that, or please encourage your neighbor to report this crime. And so we're really trying to engage as much as we can. Now, I'll tell you this, one of the things that we find with all of this is mistakes are going to be made along the way. Particularly, we've made some mistakes in our public information arena. And I all know that ultimately the buck stops with me as the chief. And as we try these things, we're going to make mistakes along the way. But we'll learn from our mistakes and we'll move on. And then some of the other things we've done, I apologize. Again, technology, I guess we'll leave it there. Some of our special interest groups in the community that we work with, we have an interfaith council that's very good. They're very supportive, and we try and interact with them. Black Lives Matter. You know what we've found in some of these special interest groups in our community, you have the adults that have one set of interests, then you have the youth that have other interests. And so at times we actually meet with these groups together, and then we'll also divide them into the different age groups based on what some of their concerns are. We see a need in our community for the LGBTQ folks, because they are, at times they feel like they're not heard. They feel like they don't have the support that they need in government. And so we reach out. We have Utah Tech, our university. We try and meet with all of their student associations that they have on campus, partnering with the Utah Tech Police Department. We have a Pacific Islander group. Liberty Action Coalition, the veterans. We don't rule anybody out when it comes to meeting. And it has developed into, at times, some negative publicity for us. Sometimes when we go to certain events, we'll have other people on social media start blasting us about, why are you going and supporting that cause? Unfortunately, we live in a time where a lot of these issues become very politicized, and we've taken some heat for that. But that's where I feel like kind of what Chief Carpenter alluded to. If we're just looking at policing and going kind of back to the initial quote that I mentioned, well, as long as the majority of the community supports us, we're doing okay. I don't buy into that. I feel like we need to try and be there for everybody. We need to do our best to make everybody feel like we're their police department, that they can reach out to us for any needs that they have and engage them at any time. Some of the other things that we're working on, there was a survey not too long ago where we're finding a lot of the mistrust with police comes from the younger generation, the youth in the middle schools and the high schools. We are doing a lot there. We have our school resource officers teach a lot of government classes in the high schools. These classes are well received and always overflowing. Typically, the officers will bring in guest speakers. I typically go and talk about administration in the police department. And so again, we're reaching out and trying to inform these groups on what policing really is. And a lot of this that they see in the media is not always accurate. Right now, we're looking at doing some after school or summer activities that we're starting to develop. They're unfortunately haven't been rolled out yet. And so we're always looking for ways to engage the community better. All right. So we deal with a lot of special events, special things that are ongoing. Some of these you may see in your community, but there are some things we tried a little bit differently. Like Park City, we have radio programs that we participate in. We do a softball game with addicts every year, recovering addicts, which has been very popular and very positive in the community. We even did, last year, earlier this year, we started a new race here in St. George. It's called the Cops and Robbers 5K. We partnered with our Leisure Services Department. One of our employees came to us and said, hey, why don't we do some sort of a race to bring the community out? Typically, we were told by Leisure Services when they start these races, you're lucky to break even or to get, even to get a little bit in the red the first year. And we way oversold what we anticipated we would. The community just came out and really supported this. Here you can see me with some of my family members, and it was a great event. So again, a lot of these things we're trying to engage the community, where when I started 22 years ago, this just wasn't on our radar. We didn't feel like there was a need to have to reach out to our communities, but times are changing. And we're finding that our community is becoming very much more supportive of our efforts. Recently, we had a police-involved shooting here, and it was very unfortunate. It was dealing with an individual who had some mental health issues. And what was interesting to me is to see the community come out and support the police, even though this was very tragic. And it was very unfortunate that this person, made the choice that they did. And people would get on and try and blast the police department saying, well, they shoulda, they coulda, and start second guessing. And we had community coming out in support of us. And that's where it really helps me realize the importance of the work that we're doing. There's a lot of other things that we do with our communities. We're out doing community meetings. We meet with our elderly population. We have a very large elderly development here in St. George called Sun River. Monthly, we're out there, and man, they love it. And they're totally behind what we're trying to do. They often have a lot of questions about, we heard this, or why do you do that? We try and we create the time to focus on these issues, because we find if we can get the information out there, it oftentimes saves us a lot of work down the road. So the why. Oftentimes people ask, even in my own organization, why? Why do we do all of this? For me, it all boils down to two things. It boils down to having a healthy organizational culture inside and a community commitment outside. One of the areas we've really seen this pay off is with our lateral recruitment. Many of you may or may not be aware, St. George Police were not the top paid agency in the state, yet we continue to see very good, very capable, very community-oriented police officers come from out of state where they could go to the Wasatch Front where possibly they could make a lot more money. What we're finding, and as I interview them as the chief, they often say, the reason I'm here is I see what you guys are doing, the community outreach. I see what it means to be a police officer here and how you can become involved in the police department. We encourage and we praise our officers when they find these opportunities. One of the coolest things I like, because we're so hot all the time down here, our officers will go and buy popsicles and go down to the parks and show up and just start handing popsicles out to the kids. And it is such a great thing. It really builds bridges and helps us with our community. The other thing that I'm finding is our younger generation, this younger workforce that's coming in, and even the 20s up to the 30 somethings, they are seeking this kind of involvement. They want to be part of something bigger. They don't want to just show up and have a menial job where it's, tasks day after day, but they want to feel like they can be part of something great. It's amazing the energy that's created by all of this involvement and the things we have officers who coach football teams. And I continually, as I am out in the community, I'm being told about officers that do things aside from their jobs, and people know them as, hey, Sergeant so-and-so or Officer so-and-so, they're my kid's Little League coach. And it really is amazing the energy that it creates and the support that we feel. One of the things I struggle with is at times as the chief, I don't feel like I'm always in control of all of these things that are going on. Many of you know that as a chief, the buck stops with me. And if something goes wrong, I'm typically the one that's going to pay for it. But I'm learning to trust my staff, and I set expectations and say, here are the parameters, but I stand back and I let them try things out. Mistakes are made. Like I said, we're going to continue to make mistakes. That's the one thing I've committed to my city manager and the elected officials is, look, I'm going to do the absolute best I can, but there may come times where I'm going to mess up and I'll learn from it and we'll move on. We've got to do better about creating a feeling of community amongst our police departments and our city governments and then our city. It's not that us versus them mentality. Our goal is to have fewer negative community interactions. The other side of this that I'm finding with our department is it's having a positive impact on our officers' wellness. Wellness for me, I'm very passionate about. I've seen over my career where people have struggled, even in our own department, with the stress, just life in general. And having officers and employees engaged in great things really helps with that satisfaction and helps them de-stress. We've got to do better about not making our organizations places where they come and we heap more stress upon them. Some of the things that we've done, and John has kind of alluded to this, over the few years, we've tried some things that have been a little out of the ordinary. And I frankly have taken a little bit of heat, and I'm okay with that. A few years ago, we had a protest with some individuals it was right after the George Floyd incident. We were very concerned. We were seeing a lot of property damage and a lot of violence around the country. Salt Lake, they were even having some issues, and we had heard that there was going to be a protest here. And I worked with our elected officials, and we came up with an idea, and it was a little bit uncomfortable, but we went out to the protesters and handed out waters and popsicles. It was a July day, and something a little bit out of the ordinary that most police departments hadn't done, and it seemed to work. We've got another protest I hear coming up in October at our St. George Marathon. There's a very volatile jury trial that's coming up with it's out of another county and some issues, but we've been fortunate enough they've selected Washington County to hold the trial here. So we know these protesters are coming, and so we're trying to come up with ways to engage these groups, hopefully to make them feel like we'll allow them to exercise their constitutional rights. Again, it's all about trying to reach out and do things differently. And that's one of the things that still excites me about policing and government generally, is we have an opportunity to create so many new and exciting things. And oftentimes as the leader myself, I just have to step back and let the great things happen in my organization, and great people with great ideas will pull through. So that's all I think I really prepared to talk about. So I'll turn the time back over to you, John.
Hey, thank you, Chief and Chief. You know, it always is amazing to me that we have these discussions and we find out that we reach out to people that, you know, we've done studies, we've done studies, and we know that there's less trust in the BIPOC community with millennials and things like that. And it always surprises, it never surprises me, I guess, but it's always good for me to see that once we start doing those kind of things and reaching out and trying to build trust in other organization, it feeds back to our organization in spades. I mean, you know, we've touched on the fact that by some of these programs that we're getting better outcomes with mental health with our police officers. We're doing better with recruitment and retention of our police officers. We're being more effective on our investigations, especially when we talk about you know, those communities when the investigations are taking place. It just seems like the outcomes just so far outweigh the effort we go into this. And it kind of seems like we're making being a police officer a little more fun as well. And so I'd like each chief to maybe take a couple minutes to comment on that. Go ahead, Chief Whitehead. You're still on the screen, so go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, it is. It is, you know, to see our officers coming in, it has been very exciting in our department over the last few years as we've started implementing these things. Our officers feel more involved. They feel more engaged. One of the big things I'm a proponent of is traditionally in our department, for example, we've always tried to have all of the instructors and all of these responsibilities more at the top of the organization. And I'm trying to change that. I'm trying to push it down, trying to get more buy-in from our officers. Look, it's not me or the captains or the lieutenants that need the buy-in at the department. We're here. It's the officers to try and retain great individuals. And that's where I have seen this excitement grow. And I think it's our officers do a great job at recruiting. We have a lot of people that come and apply for our organization because they show up and just try a ride along once. And they're like, man, when I was with your officer, I felt something here. And that's what our goal is we want to not just have it within our department, but throughout our city and with our community, with our other city employees. We're trying to build that relationship and that excitement because there are exciting things happening in St. George.
Great, thank you. Chief Carpenter.
Thank you. I think Chief Whitehead makes a great point. I've always said, why are we suddenly so much smarter when we become promoted to a sergeant, a lieutenant, a captain? It makes no sense to me. Why are we underutilizing our police officers, our line officers on grants, on opportunities to engage the community at a much deeper level? And holding them accountable for that as well, and giving them the rewards when they do a wonderful job. I always have this mantra when I interview a new officer. I said, I can protect you from a lot of things. We own it, we act on it, we answer for it. You mess up, you fess up, and you clean up. That's our deal. You know, we own it. And you know, the other day we had an issue and they said, what do? We do the right thing. And if we're wrong, we own it. So put it out there, let our people know we make mistakes, and we'll just deal with it. Whatever the outcome is, the outcome is. And I think that getting rid of that gotcha mentality where it's like, you know what, when we quit hiring from the human race, then we'll quit making mistakes. But as long as we're going to make mistakes. So having said that, if they don't feel that you're trying to support them in the best they can do with the environment or the situation they have, I think that's very important. And I think constantly reminding them that we make mistakes as well is very, very important. So, Kyle alluded to the mental health issue. For the International Association of Chiefs of Police, we many years ago started a campaign called the One Mind campaign. We had an officer that took his life in the line of duty. And that really had a huge impact on our department. And I don't know that they've completely recovered from that. And I think looking at some of those initiatives, but really embracing that and seeing what that looks like. We've done a lot of mental health outreach for our officers. In fact, we have mandatory mental health. We don't even know about the outcome of the interview, but they have an opportunity to go in and have an audience with a therapist. What that conversation is doesn't have anything to do with me, but we just want to make sure that they have that opportunity to go through that and share what they want. And if there's an issue or we have an officer that has gone through a traumatic experience, that our city's been fantastic, our HR, about paying for those therapists that sometimes aren't in the regular plan, that are experts with law enforcement, because what we deal with is very different than somebody from Public Works, for example. So we want to make sure that we're getting the professionals, that getting the officers the help that have seen some of the tragedies that our officers are seeing.
Okay, great. Again, thank you. I know you both are busy, and I so appreciate the time you spent with us today. And I'll turn the time back over to Susan. I think she'll tell us that this will be available for further viewing and some other things. But Chief Carpenter, Chief Whitehead, thank you for your time. And Chief Carpenter, let Lieutenant Randall know how much we appreciate him. So
thank you. And good luck, John. We'll miss you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. And it's also interesting to point out, St. George Mayor Michelle Randall mentioned that the St. George Police Department has Facebook page has 29,000 followers. That's phenomenal. And then she also pointed out that Park City, on your social media sites, you message in Spanish. So the message is not just in English, but you're reaching your audience by speaking the language that audience speaks.
We're trying very hard. It's been a challenge, but social media is a challenge anyway. You can have one bad interaction, as Chief Whitehead said, and in this environment, through bots and other things, they can entirely skew what your community, this perception of what your community is. I think it's important that your community speaks out on your behalf, and we've had the same thing. Our community always comes to bat for us, and we love our community and are appreciative of that.
And you guys are awesome. I mean, anyone who can give out popsicles to a group that may want to be perceived as threatening, that takes a lot. And the popsicles don't cost very much too. So good work to both of you. Anyway, next week or next time we will do Lunch with the League will be not August. Oh my gosh. Okay.
October
18th from 12 to 1. Don't say the B word. Don't say it. That's the title of the session. It's about privacy basics. The B word, I'm going to say it, breach. It's going to talk about breach response plans for your community. So you'll want to pay attention to that. October 18th, you can watch for the notification in your Friday Facts email or on our website. Also, speaking of this session, this webinar, we will feature it on our website under resources, under the public safety category. So you can find it there, and we'll also be sending it out in Friday Facts. So thanks, John. Thanks to all of you for joining us today. It's been a really interesting session about improving the relationship between police and your community. Hope you have a fantastic day. We'll see you at the annual convention and next time on Lunch with the League. Bye-bye.